I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
I'm adjusting because I feel like there's a light in my mirror and it might be messing things up, but you know, it's all life on is that distracting, that little light in the mirror?
Brilliant start to the episode.
You're hosting a podcast, Sean.
No. I'm being real and honest. I actually was knowing that we were starting.
Oh, good. We're just teasing you, friend.
Oh, all right.
If you want me to honestly answer the question, I thought that behind you was like a bar space, not a mirror. So, you live, you learn. It looked like an empty.
Yeah. Well, let's get to what's important. I'm scruffy because of a part. So that's why, excuse me, people who are watching on YouTube. And I'm going back to comfort sweater. That's the look I'm going for today.
What do you mean you're scruffy because of a part?
I'm scruffy because I have a self-tape that is required to have a beard. And so I'm trying to do that. So that's why I'm scruffy. But I will get into that in Sean's week coming up. But I'm so excited because, as always, Miss Phenomenal is here. Very excited.
I'm very excited to be here.
But it's been a couple weeks. Mr. Funtabulous is in the house, back with us. So happy to have you, sir.
I know. I'm really happy to be here, too. I want you guys first to know that I have been listening to the show. I consider Acting Class Weekly for the rare times I can't make it essential listening. But I, as you all know, there's this little global pandemic happening right now, and the troops have been a little bit, we've just been rallied to different areas of keeping the ship afloat. But things are going really well at AfterBuzz. I've just adopted a couple more responsibilities.
So if you have been listening, Jeff, what was the last word that we said 2 weeks ago? Just curious.
Yeah, just journey.
Journey.
Thanks for letting me.
No. We'll talk after.
I mean, geez.
Obviously, we. By the way, a staff meeting immediately.
Zoom meeting.
Zoom meeting immediately after. Okay, so you guys need to know. I dropped a hint of this crazy story of this TV show I was on very early in my career in the early '90s. In a certain, I forget which episode it was, and Miss Phenomenal, Mr. Fantabulous went nuts. They said, "How dare you drop just this little morsel of goodies on us and not let us chew on this delicious meal that is this crazy journey in the TV story I'm telling today." So
Sean,
I am serving you a Passover today, Roxy, a fantastic Passover meal.
Honestly, when I saw the rundown for today's show, I legitimately thought to myself, this must be because it's Passover. This is a true blessing.
Yeah,
this
is
a
blessing to you.
It's taken a while to get there, but all, good things come to those who wait. And I have never, we have had major stars on the show. We've had crazy breakthroughs, but never, ever has there been anything that you've talked about that Jeff and I have responded to in the way we responded to when you casually dropped this role that you played. I cannot wait for this episode. I saw it and was like, this is a gift from above.
I said to Jeff this morning, I said, I don't feel I can just get through this easily without you guys. I know, especially you, Roxy, you're going to be so curious about every aspect of this. This may be a two-parter. I'm warning everybody out front, just because I started to go through my journey and I went, oh my God, there's so much here. It's just nuts. And the funny thing was also this warning, Mr. Fantabulous was like, listen, I think I'm going to be there today. And then as soon as he got the breakdown, he's like, yeah, I kind of have to I have to.
Honestly, you're only here because of you saw what the topic was.
Yeah.
You may or may not be right.
I knew it.
But before we jump into that, as always, so guys, there's not going to be a story from the set this week because this whole story is basically a story from the set.
Can I quickly ask before you dive in, Sean? I didn't realize it was Passover. First of all, Roxy, happy Passover. To all of our Jewish listeners, happy Passover. Do you have a Zoom Seder plan tonight?
Great question. I'm doing a Zoom Seder with my family tomorrow night. We are surprising Grammy and Papo based on tech stuff. We could not do it tonight, but Passover lasts many days. So we are able to do it tomorrow night. And it is going to be all of their Grammy and Papo's children and all of the grandchildren. So
wow,
a lovely thing. But we are doing what is called matzah and manischewitz, because it's better, quicker than everybody having to make brisket and do all that. So
Sure.
basically just wine and the easy stuff to buy at the store.
Nice.
But we're very excited about it. I appreciate you asking me, Jeff. I tried to earlier on my stream explain the story of Passover. I miserably failed. I should have kept it simple. I was like,
Ten
and then
Commandments. Ten
then they
Commandments,
ran.
Charlton Heston.
Yeah, but because there's the whole part with the Moses and the slaves, and then I talked about the dipping of the
bitter
stuff
herbs.
and the herbs and the bone.
Unleavened bread.
Yeah, but it just got really messy. There's a lot going on. So
I will say
a
though,
lot
you'll
going
probably have an especially resonant Passover, because if I remember right, one of the plagues that your people dealt with was sickness, right?
Yep, it definitely does. It definitely does ring true to this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the things do actually, even like death of the firstborn. There's a lot of
Yes.
metaphors that
Crazy.
feel like.
Well,
crazy.
to all of
And
our
I'm
many
a-
Jewish listeners, we wish
Yes.
you happy Passover.
And
Thank you so much.
that's my ex-wife was Jewish, and one of the things I miss most is Haroset on Passover.
You don't have to miss it. You could participate.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do I mean?
Well, I'm gonna. I mean, I didn't go buy the stuff to make it or anything like that. But you're right. Actually,
What do you mean?
Oh,
Yes, your ex-wife is the only one who can make it on the planet. You are screwed. That is good.
yeah, but I was with her for a very long time, and it's hers. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I've tried other Haroset, and I really don't like it.
Ooh, nothing compares. Nothing
compares
compares to
to
Roset. To Jew. That was better.
Way better.
Mhm.
Sorry to put you like in that position, but before we start, we have to go. It's going to be the excitement of the story you're getting in the Sean's week. That's the vibe. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Sean's week.
Ooh, there was a big smile on Roxy's face, and I never get to see Mr. Funtabulous and his physicalization of the Sean's week, and it was very fun to see it. He was doing the big cheering, excited version, and Roxy was just doing like the blessed, the washing over.
Wait,
of the
quick
gift
follow
she's
up
finally
to what you just said, Sean.
Yeah,
Physicalization, is that a word?
physicalization. Yeah,
That is?
physicalization is a
Wow.
word.
Doesn't it sound
Isn't it?
weird? I don't know.
Does it sound weird? Physicalization. I actually think it
Physicalization.
is.
I'm in on it.
I do
Yeah.
know what you mean,
Mr.
though.
Fantabulous.
Okay.
I really think it is. I'm gonna be
Let's
very
go.
embarrassed if it's not.
No, you are probably right.
Physicalized.
The physicality of physicalization.
No, you're probably right. It's probably physicality, not physicalization. I don't know.
No idea.
All right. Well, let's get into my week. Okay. I had, like I said, I'm doing a big self tape for a very big franchise. That's it. As you guys know, we can't talk about anything. But I actually just shot it, turned it in. I guess I was saying I was going to, but I did it. And then I have another thing where I have to be scruffy. So I'm just keeping it. But I was very proud of it. Of course, Amy directed. Very tough on me, as always.
It's lucky that your director lives with you.
Yeah, it was great. She did a great job as usual.
Sean, I would think you'd be in a pretty small class of actors who are actually getting auditions right now.
Yeah, I guess. I don't. I mean, there's not a lot. I mean, I had one last week, one this week.
Okay.
So,
I actually know a good amount of actors that are getting auditions right now.
I think they are. Yeah.
Because
that's heartening.
I think that people know that productions will be happening.
Yeah,
but
so they
a lot of
may
them
as well
are
get this out of the way.
Sean, I'm assuming with yours too, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of them are for already established properties that the next season will be happening. We just don't know when.
Right. I did tell you about my new student that I got on from this podcast.
Woo-hoo!
Lisa, we had our first class last week. It was very cool. Shout out to Lisa. She always listens every week. TikTok's going well. I did my first third QuaranCon last week. Amy actually worked with me again on that, and it was really successful. People just had a blast and were thanking me, saying thanks for doing this. So, I had weird feelings about it, but I did half off, and and they appreciated that, and I appreciated it too. So it was a blast. So that was really cool. So if you go to TikToks on Fridays, 2:30 Pacific time, I'm live and I do signed autograph photos and answer questions. It's a really good time. And then these casting directors, speaking of, that aren't doing projects, they want us to send in. Sorry, that's my mail. I don't know how to turn that off.
We couldn't hear it.
Oh, good. The casting directors are asking actors to shoot just some monologues to reacquaint themselves with us. So I'm actually writing my own dramatic monologue. People know that I can do comedy.
Wait, can you explain that again, Sean?
They're just asking. They said,
Who?
"Hey, we'd like to." Casting directors.
Just a group of like just random.
Several casting directors are saying we'd like to get reacquainted with people we haven't seen in a while, and to just look at some tapes and just keep, our eyes and ears fresh on what's going on. So I said, is this something for me or is this for beginners? And they said, no, it's for anyone. So my management said, sure, do it. But I'm making the choice because everybody knows I can do broad and funny. That I'm going to do a very subtle, quiet, kind of poignant scene that I'm writing myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sean, when you finish it, can you share? Are you going to be able to share it with us? Maybe.
Sure.
Wow, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. It is. It's going to be very cool. So that's kind of what's been going on. And my sketch class is starting up again, and we're going to try to create content specifically for Zoom so we can film it. I have an idea that I actually don't think I'm going to share out loud right now, that we're going to work on kind of a serialized Zoom thing with all of us. And that's going to be starting up soon too. So I'm very excited about that. So a lot going on, but listen, guys, it's hard. It's hard to get up and, just everything seems to be taking longer, like getting out of bed and like getting things done just seems to be slower. I don't know what it is. Are you guys experiencing that at all?
I think Roxy and I don't want to speak for you, Rox, but we both feel enormously grateful right now because we have jobs, and that's not true for most people. But I think the flip side of that coin is that I don't want to speak for you, Rox, but I feel like I've never been working harder.
I have literally never worked as many hours as I am working currently.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm the bum.
But I do hear you, Sean, about it is more challenging. Like
yes.
I do feel like I'm doing so much right now, but I'm also fighting this voice in my head that's saying like, just chill, Rox. Pandemic, hang out, like I haven't been drinking or anything like it.
Sure.
The voice in my head is like, have that glass of wine at 4 p.m. It's okay, Rox. And then the other part of me is like, no, keep your job, Roxy, or you cannot live. This one wins for now.
Yeah, always. Yeah.
Well, I feel that there's
I have a semi-structure, but I could be more structured. It's always harder when you're, it's something that doesn't have an urgency, like an immediate urgency. Obviously those things are easy, but things that I should be doing, it's just harder. So I'm not saying I'm not getting a lot of stuff done. What I'm saying is I feel for people who are having a harder time being motivated.
I totally agree, Sean. And I think there might be a bit of greener grass syndrome for a lot of people right now where like, the 5% of the time where I'm like, does it sound like it'd be nice to like be able to just sit down and watch a binge show? All those people who have the time to do that now would love jobs. And of course, we could be in the hospitals on the front lines right now.
Exactly.
So I think there's a lot of different experiences happening right now. It's going to be very interesting to see how we come out of this and just kind of the stories that we
the
hear
new world. What will that look like? 9/11 changed a lot. What will this change?
And in relationship to this show, how that will affect not just the industry, because we've talked a little bit about that, but the actual art that's being made,
right.
The choices you mentioned 9/11, Sean, but the choices that people had to make after 9/11, friends deciding not to write that into their show, people saying, you guys are a show that takes place in New York City. How is this not going to be mentioned?
Right.
Deciding they're a comedy, so not to mess with it, as opposed to other shows that did feature it and prominently. It will be interesting to see how this affects characters, TV shows, movies. Of course, this is going to make its way because it's not only just a global pandemic, but it's also it's something that I think is going to be featured in pop culture for decades to come.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I agree. And we'd like to entertain you for decades to come So the only way we can do that is with your participation, Roxy.
How long were you thinking about that one, Sean?
I literally spit that out right now. I swear
No,
to
you
God.
didn't.
I swear to you.
Well.
I swear to you.
So you guys have been amazing, and you've always been amazing, but especially during this pandemic, there's been so much love for the show, and I think it does help that we've had some pretty baller guests on. Brandon Trost was amazing in his 2-part episode.
Yeah.
But I wanted to shout out you guys who have been shouting us out via Apple Podcast and YouTube and writing comments and giving us 5 stars and a thumbs up and subscribing to our network. You guys are amazing and the reason we're able to continue doing this show. So I looked on last week's video, and just a quick shout out to Tom, who said, awesome content. You deserve more subscribers. We appreciate that. If you're not already subscribed, then make sure you go do that. It's just a click of a button, and then you'll never miss an Acting Class Weekly. And I also wanted to share with you guys the story of somebody that, Jeff, I know you know. Sean, I don't know if you know this person, but we have a dear friend, somebody who used to intern for AfterBuzz named Megan Lynn, who sent me the nicest text about Acting Class Weekly.
What?
She's listened to every Acting Class Weekly at least twice. I love it so much.
Oh my God.
She's somebody who wants to be a host, but she also wants to be an actress. And she has these 2 major passions, kind of similar to myself. And she was asking me about acting classes and what she could be doing. And she was like, and before you mention it, I already have been listening to the show twice every single episode.
Wow.
So I thought that was pretty incredible. And Sean, I know you talk about the students that you get from this and people who tell you they're listening, but then I wanted to give a shout out to Megan because she's a really phenomenal talent. And I love that she's been listening and taking notes, and that's pretty amazing.
I know. I'm very, that always blows me away when you read those. So I'm very,
it's incredible. Grateful. It's incredible. So I'll give more shout outs next week. So make sure you guys leave a comment wherever you are. If you're listening on podcast or if you're in the YouTube, I go to both places, and I try to get to everybody who writes something. So it means the world to us. And also it legitimately helps other people find the show, which is really important for us to continue to grow and be able to bring the show to you guys in this crazy time that we're going through. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much. I cannot, I don't know what to say. When we started this, I was hoping to get a few people every once in a while tuning in. So it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's awesome.
It's crazy. All right, let's do this. Let's jump into, now what we're talking about is a TV show that I did in the early 90s, called in 92, called The Amazing Live Sea Monkeys. It was a live action kid show based on the popular little thing you could get in the back of comic books that you would sprinkle in water and they'd be sea monkey. They're actually brine shrimp, actually. This is
You're talking about, they look like little sponges, right?
Yeah, kind of, they float around, but they were in the back of comic books. But so this was a show called Amazing Live Sea Monkeys, Howie Mandel, live action, the Kyoto brothers, who did Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I was thinking we could easily probably get one of the Kyoto brothers on here for one of these. So hopefully we can. So I got to give you some context. I was a big talker, believe it or not. And I was going to ask my now ex-wife to marry me. And I decided not to tell anybody, which is crazy because at least my mom, I would just vent to or whatever. I just needed to get stuff out. So I kept it all in, went on this trip to London and Paris, had my first ever panic attack just because everything was like happening to me at once. And I was keeping all this stress.
Sean, you're talking about in 92, you went on a
92.
trip.
Yeah, so I'm giving you context.
So context prior to you shooting.
Prior to me shooting the show.
Okay.
So I had this anxiety attack and I came back. We were getting married. My father-in-law was deathly ill. It was all going on at once. And then my agent called and said, there's this series regular they want to see you for on this kid show called The Amazing Live Sea Monkeys. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. She's like, yeah, but just letting you know, it's fully prosthetic. Now, prosthetic makeup is the kind that you use for creatures and things like that. You're covered to a small degree. You know, I guess Worf, right, on Star Trek had some on. Some people are completely covered, like Planet of the Apes. They're completely covered, but that's
Shape
called
of
prosthetic.
Water?
Yeah, yes, that's prosthetic makeup. Okay, so as soon as she said this, and I am claustrophobic, I went, oh, hell no. And she goes, what do you mean? She goes, it's a series regular. They're definitely signed up for at least 12. And I was like, oh, well, series regular money back then was like $10,000 to $20,000 or $20,000 or something. And I thought, well, that would be really helpful, especially I'm getting married and the whole thing. And people go like, oh, that's exorbitant. But you have to understand, we only work for those 10 episodes. We can't work for the next 8, 11 or 10 months.
You're talking about, Sean, per episode or for the entire
per
run?
per episode. But then she called me up and said, oh, it's actually not that, it's Saturday morning. It was only a few grand per episode. And I said, yeah, but still, when you're living lean like an actor for so long, a few grand a week is a lot of money.
Well, and I would think too, Sean, just booking a series regular in general is like a big career milestone, right?
But when you find out it's on Saturday morning and they can't see your face at all, then that's what I weighted against. And I thought, okay, this is crazy. So she just said, they love you, they're fans of you, just go in. And because I went in and had no thought at all to be in this show. So the whole concept was the 3 sea monkeys are created and brought to life in a huge form by a wacky scientist who was Howie Mandel. And the audition was to find a vibe of a Laurel and Hardy, Three Stooges, kind of classic slapstick vibe. So they gave us just totally improvised things to do. I can't remember. I just remember it was in a warehouse up by Magic Mountain. And I was just physical and wacky and just whatever, because I just didn't care. And I was never going to take the show anyway.
But Sean, you have nothing on your face. They don't get like other props or anything.
No. It's just all fun, physical, and chemistry between the other actors to see if we get along.
Oh, so immediately your first audition was chemistry with
No. But they just put in groups.
Oh,
groups, because they wanted to see if you could play with other people. Not a chemistry read, which we haven't really talked about.
Right.
But a chemistry read is when you're much further down and they're doing final pairings or groups. This is just loose groups, and to see how you work with others, kind of thing. And they loved me and kept coming at me to be in the thing. And I was thinking, man, I'm about to get married. I need to make money. This would be good money. I don't know if I can do this because of the prosthetic, and I just started having anxiety attacks for the first time in my life from 2 months earlier. And so I thought, it was a very difficult decision to make, but my agent said, listen, like you said, Jeff, she said, it's still a series regular. And I said, I know, but she goes, but it's still, we can say now out loud on the phone, he's a series regular. She goes, it's just a good thing to say.
Sean, what point in your career were you at when you did this? Had you shot the commercial that got milk?
No, this was 92. So I'd done People Under the Stairs, and it didn't do for me, which I thought it would. But I didn't know how to capitalize on it then. Back in that day, we didn't have social media and everything like that. If you wanted to capitalize on something like that, you had to spend $5 to $10 grand on publicist, and I couldn't afford that.
So you had done some stuff, but you hadn't
done some stuff, but I hadn't broken the milk commercial yet. That would come a year or so later. So I did need a credit like that. It would be good. I had a few guest spots and things like that, and obviously People Under the Stairs. So I ended up taking it. So it shot in right across from Magic Mountain off the 5. And
there are still studios there, right?
Yeah. What's that area called? Why am I blanking on that?
Valencia, right?
Valencia, yes. Valencia.
Yeah, I think Studios, now, pretty much everything on Freeform, I think, shoots there now.
Yes, I think they do, actually. So I do remember that. And then the 2 guys that got it with me was this one guy, Peter and Steve. And am I getting his name right? I got to look it up. Jeff, will you look up the Sea Monkeys? And if it's Peter Potofsky, and I'm blanking on the Canadian guy. I know he's such a good friend, but
I'm on it.
So we got along really well. So Peter Potofsky
and Rob LaBelle.
Rob LaBelle. I said Steve, but Rob.
I heard Rob.
I heard Rob too. That's so funny.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So what was great? So he was like a thin Mo type, like Mo, Larry, and Curly from the Three Stooges. Peter was a heavy guy that he could do anything, such physical crazy. He could do the thing where you stand, kick his foot, and do that full flip where you land on your back. Like he could do all this crazy, physical, wacky kind of comedy, Curly comedy from Curly of the Three Stooges. And then I was supposed to be like a sweet Stan Laurel from Laurel and Hardy. So that was kind of the vibe of the three guys.
Because are you not, Sean, typically a Mo type?
No, I'm always like the sweet dumb. And that's what I was, the sweet innocent thing. So we went in there, and the first thing they had to do, obviously before they started, was to give me a full face cast. Now I'm putting up a picture. And so what
Are you under that, Sean?
Yes, I am. This is, if you go on, if you're listening, you can go to YouTube and see this picture. I'm completely covered in plaster. Now this is way before they had lighter stuff.
So do you guys know when you're kids, I don't know if anybody else did this, but if you go to like Michael's or AC Moore, the stuff that you put your hand in, it's like a white cement that completely covers it.
Yeah.
Or they do, it legitimately looks like white cement, but all over his entire face. The only thing you could see was like a little bit of his lips and nostrils.
Yeah.
And that is the only thing.
And so this was back in the day when it was heavier too. So it felt like 20 pounds. And you're in pitch darkness, and the more they layer it on there. Now, this is to make a cast of my face so they can make the prosthetics. Everything just gets gets darker and more muffled. You can hardly hear anything. So I remember just I said, crank up music. They cranked up music as loud as they could so I could hear it. And I was holding. So this one assistant woman I just said, I need to hold someone's hand just to hold it.
How long?
To feel like a sense. And then again, this is old. Like now they can take this thing on and off you in like 20 minutes. That was probably 45 minutes to an hour in that complete. And for someone who's claustrophobic. So of course my heart started going, but I got through it.
You only had to do that one time, Sean?
I had to do that one time to get the cast. Right. So then they did the, makeup for it. And there was these several foam pieces. And so we would shoot these episodes on this soundstage. And again, we're very big and very broad. This is in August in Valencia in like a warehouse. It's not like a nice studio. It's just like a warehouse. So it was really hot in there. So they were concerned for us, and I will get into what they did next, but I want to show you how I was covered. So first piece, I would get this big headpiece on. Now I have like little googly things on top. Like
what is that made of, Sean? Is that rubber?
It's like a foam. Oh,
that's the foam. Okay.
Yeah, it's like a rubber and foam, I would say. So this looks like a helmet. That was piece one, right? Then he'd glue that on. Then he would glue on. This is my man Mark. I'll show you. He was wonderful. Glue on the face piece, which is cheeks, nose, mouth, and chin. That's the second piece. Again, if you can go to YouTube to see these, it's pretty incredible. So
wow.
Okay, we're getting there. Then they had to do the third piece. Now this all took like a couple hours.
And Sean, this is every day before you shoot?
Every day. So I'd have to get there at like 5 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning. There were people on the cast who never, ever knew what we looked like until the wrap party.
Wow.
Because they never saw us. So this is me getting that piece on. Okay, so this is the whole thing kind of put together without being painted.
So just to get to this step is like 2 hours in, Sean?
It's probably, no. The whole thing was probably 2 hours.
Okay, so this is like an hour of putting this stuff.
Yeah, and this is then now he has to paint all the seams and creases, right?
Sean,
So
today would they just CGI this?
No, I mean, I think they would do practical. It would be way too hard to CGI and plus way too expensive. It's way cheaper to do this. And then you have to paint everything. And that's me getting my neck painted. And then I would have gloves for my hands, huge rubber gloves that went all the way up to past my elbow. That made me look. So I look like an orange kind of cartoony sea creature for people who are just listening.
Sean, do you feel like it helped you get in character to have all that put on you?
No,
Really?
I was just in hell. It was once I got into it, once I would see myself in the mirror, like I guess what I should clarify what you're saying, Jeff. If I could snap my fingers and it would be on, yes, 100%. But that part, what I remember is getting there in the morning. It was cool, and I remember the first brush of cold glue on my neck, and my heart would just go. I would just be like, "Oh my god!" Because I'm going to be in the. Because when you're anxious, and we've talked about this. Listen to my mental health episode about actors. But you ruminate on, oh god, this is going to be on all day. This is going to be on all day. Even if I wanted to take this off, I can't. I can't take it off all day. I have to eat with it.
Sean,
And
did the other two people feel the exact same way, or because they have less anxiety?
We'll get there. Mine was manifested that way. Then after this was all on, because it's so hot, and because our skin doesn't have a way to breathe, right? Because we had boots, shoes, glovey things on to make our feet look webbed. They had to do a thing called a cool suit, and that's what this is. So this is a cool vest, okay? This is a cool vest that wrapped around my waist, and it had a hose, and that hose would plug into a cooler that would pump cool water into your chest to cool down your core. So you wouldn't.
Are you getting wet, or it's got fabric between?
Fabric, yeah, but that's just a way to cool your core down. So we
actually
that.
They'll do that with injuries. They have like little braces that run cool water through for like ankles and stuff.
Yeah, there it is right there. There's another picture of me with my cool vest on. And then I would get the costume on. And this is all of us made up. And so crazy, right? Oh, here we are again. Me, Peter, and Rob.
Which one are you, Sean? The one in the back?
Orange, yeah.
They're all kind of orange.
Orange.
No, that's pink. They're pink and red. Yeah, and this is my aunt who came to visit, but there I am sitting there in my chair.
So crazy. So crazy,
guys. So then we would start to do the show, and it was big and wacky and broad. But what would happen is, if a take went too long, we'd have to like tap out and run over to our coolers and plug in, because it just got harder and harder. Then the hours would happen. So what happened to me was, as it went on, the anxiety. So by the time I got home, so this is me taking it off, okay? So what would happen literally is they'd cut off the top, and steam would come out of your, it was like, whoosh, of all this heat would come off the top of your head when they took off the top piece of my head. Then it took a long time to, slowly get the stuff to take off the makeup. And that would take off all the pieces. They were just these alcohols to take it all off. And that took an hour and a half. And then this would be me at the end. Now, you got to understand, so that was another at least hour to an hour and 15 minutes, right? And then I was a half-hour drive from home. Then I would just be so messed up. Then I'd have to go to sleep, because I knew I'd have to be up at 5 the next morning. And that cycle started to affect me. I couldn't sleep. It was
What time were you getting home?
I was probably getting home. I mean, this was summer and it was dark. So I would say at least between 8 and 9. And I would only have like an hour or two before I could really sleep and do it all over again.
And for how long was this?
This was 2 months.
5 days a week?
Yeah. And it started to mess me up. I think I lost 15 pounds, and I was thin in my 20s. So I was probably like 117 or something at some point. I was 5'8".
Were you Aquarius, Bill, or Dave?
Aquarius.
You were Aquarius. So you couldn't keep a secret.
What's that?
You couldn't keep a secret.
Yes, that's right. I was like the goofy, innocent, silly person.
So crazy.
Yeah, and we got to try to find a clip for next show. We just have to. But then because there's no way we're not going to get through this. But this is what started to happen to me. I couldn't sleep. And one day, Rob did not get to his cool suit fast enough and just went poof, and just hit the floor. And I just remember seeing him in his goofy costume with his goofy face being dragged under his armpits into the dressing room to try to get him out. And when they did, it was just like he would cry every time they took the head off because the rush of steam and heat was so crazy. He was sopping wet. And he had passed out and he had to go home. And so one of the producers, one of the Kyoto brothers, who was thin and kind of his size, he did it. Well, meanwhile, the makeup people and us were going, the conditions aren't good. We're in a warehouse. We're in simple chairs. Like, we should get nicer chairs to recline in the morning because it's hard enough. And so the producer then did this show for one episode where he didn't say anything, but he could, hide behind the makeup a little bit. And believe me, after that day, he's like, they need better amenities and things like that. Meanwhile, there's this one producer who was keeping the show going, who kept on coming in. I think that was Steve, and he'd come in and go, all right, we got to make sure we got enough for the next few episodes. I'm heading to Vegas. And we never knew what that meant. Like, we never knew it was like shady money or, just like, well, we need to get, we might lose a couple episodes. And the guys and I were kind of like, ooh, maybe that's not a bad thing. And he goes, well, I'm going to go to Vegas and keep this thing going, So it was just it wasn't really that the show was fun. It was fun to do. It was just so hot and so stressful that it was hard to eat, hard to sleep. And that just took its toll until finally I had to come in one day and go, I can't, I need a day. And there was this kind of spiritual woman who was there, one of the costume ladies, and she laid me down and she kind of did this Reiki thing on me and like rubbed my stomach in a way that it calmed it down. And the producer came in and she goes, he can't do this today. You got to give him a day. And I went home and I slept and just relaxed for it. It was just too much. It was crazy. It was but I came back and I listened to like You Can't Afford the Luxury of a Negative Thought. It's an old book. And I listened to that and I wrote a bunch of things down, just like I told you to read. Why am I lucky? I'm lucky because I have a series. I'm lucky that I get to work with, people I like. I got to work with Gilbert Gottfried came and guested on our show because he was friends with Howie. And like, I just tried to stay on the positives, and I actually made it through the rest of the show after that. So it wasn't like one of those things that I stopped for that day and thought, oh, I got to keep going. And
Sean, couple of questions. Looking back at it, should you have taken the job?
What's that?
Looking back at it, should you have taken the job?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I call it, and I have called it since, the Vietnam of acting for me. Because no matter how bad it got, I was hanging from a wire with LL Cool J when there was no, support underneath us. I was in the middle. I was pelted with huge chunks of ice, even one hitting me in the head and giving me the biggest lump and bloody lump in Twister. But every single time, any time that it would get rough in any shoot, I go, at least I'm not a sea monkey. I swear to God, to this day, I always say if there's an acting job that's tough, I go, at least I'm not a sea monkey. There's nothing.
So it's the hardest gig you've ever had. It
was the hardest gig I ever had. And then we will get into, kind of what happened next. I think we have to go further because I could tell, Roxy, you have some questions.
So do I.
But let's just put it this way. To add insult to injury, it was on at 11 o'clock on Saturday mornings on CBS. So it would always be preempted by college ball all the time. So no one saw it. No one saw it. So even if it blew up. So the hope was, like, I have very mixed feelings. Do I want it to go forward? Do I not want it to go forward? But the biggest thing was, if it went forward, that means it was a hit and there'd be better everything, right?
Yeah.
Everything would be better. and we'd have more of a say on our hour. We, everything would be better if
they
we
can
got
afford
right.
a way to keep you from passing out on
so
set.
you were right. So you were torn. Like, do I want a second season? Do I not want a second season? But it was, that was kind of part of it. So, and then at the end of it, Ryan, can you let me know how much time we have left, please?
He's been writing
It's in the chat.
Is it? Oh, I can't see it. Sorry. Okay, thanks. The thing was for me that I will leave this as a teaser for next week, but I will leave you with this. This literally almost ended my entire acting career, because I thought, if this is the way we were treated, and meanwhile this guy's going to Vegas, and they don't believe how stressed we are and how hard it is until they actually had to physically get in the suits. Why did they believe us? Those kind of things. I got very cynical and disheartened, and I will go into how I pulled out of that next week. But believe me, I'm sure you guys have a ton of questions. Guys, if you're listening, please get your Sea Monkey questions lined up. And Roxy and Jeff, if you have one quick one, we can grab one before we bow out. But
I will save my questions for next week, but I do want to give some shout outs to people in the chat. Jeff, you can ask your question, but to Larry Lease, who gave a super chat, he said, "Hey guys, smash that like button." Appreciate it, Larry. So if you're watching this, don't forget to thumbs up, subscribe, all that stuff. Also, shout out to Glenn Caesar, Weston Ira, and everybody who's joining us live. Shanika Tinsley. We really appreciate you guys being here live with us every single Wednesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on AfterBuzz TV. Appreciate it. And Jeff, I guess you get the one Sea Monkey question of the to end this with, although God, do I have so many.
I can
let me know. You can let me know structurally, Sean, whether or not we want to cover this next week. But how closely were you working with Howie Mandel?
Yes.
He was, busy and touring, and he would do, which you guys know, but in the entertainment world, it's called a wraparound. So he would do an opening scene, and then an end quick scene. So he'd come in probably once every few weeks and shoot a bunch of wraparounds, quick beginning scenes, quick end scenes. So we didn't see him that often.
Okay.
So was he aware at all of what was going on with you guys?
No. A good producer would never let him know all that stuff. I mean, he was an executive producer, but those guys just want to, take the hit. You know what I mean?
It's just, there's such a profound...
You always protect yourself from your talent and stuff like that. A good producer wouldn't, and we weren't going to go to Howie, but, it was... There's another Peter's breakdown we'll leave for next week when Peter.
Oh my gosh. There's just such I was just gonna say, such a profound irony. I'm sure most of your listeners know Howie Mandel's a notorious germaphobe.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for him to create a show that demands people be glued into prosthetic rubber suits.
Yeah.
Like, what would a therapist say?
I just don't know.
Although that is pretty clean, because nobody can really touch you.
That's true. You're protected.
Yeah, you're protected, and you're wearing gloves and.
Maybe you're right. It's the ultimate. It's his dream.
But I do have to do a little research to just see how much he was involved in it. I think
Howie was jealous. He wanted to be a sea monkey himself.
Well, the Kyoto brothers were, like I said, if you guys know Killer Clowns from Outer Space, it's a huge cult classic, and that kind of goofy makeup was and they're great guys, and there's people who just want to see this thing again. I actually ran into them at a convention, and I said, God, it would be so great. It would be so great to get some DVDs out and do interviews of all of us and just do this.
I thought you were going to say for a sequel.
No. To do. Yeah. I mean, it was just crazy. It was crazy, but you do, because it's so psychological, right? You finally get, all I was saying is on my goals, my little goal sheet, series regular. And then you get it, right? And then you're tested like this. So I was, plus like I said, my future father-in-law is dying. I'm trying to plan a wedding. I'm trying to make it through this, but
I also
grateful
think
for the money.
it's interesting, Sean, because we have as humans, you block out trauma. And I remember when we started acting class weekly, you said to Jeff and I have never been a series regular. That is something that
Right.
you said out loud. I have never been a series regular. I would
Right.
like to, because I think, I don't know if we were in pilot season or what, but you were like, I really would like to book a series regular. I've never been a series regular.
Right.
And that's why when we found out about this, Jeff and I both said, so you have been a series regular? And you were like,
Right.
I guess so. And you didn't even check the box in your head, even though that's absolutely what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. But I actually, yeah. It's because it was something I just don't think about that. It is true. I really don't think about it. But like I said, I will tell you the deep therapy I went through afterward and how I came out the other end. But I did mention it actually on our mental health show. But why I stayed into acting that had nothing to do with acting. But we'll get into that and all your questions. I'll try to find out how much Howie had to do with it in general, and then
You should
I will
tweet
tell you
at
about
him.
Peter's breakdown. Well, he's on TikTok, so I'm thinking of doing like a duet with him.
That would be
and
amazing.
Just showing a picture of me and going, "Remember me?"
We need that. Must be done.
It'd be really fun. So there's a lot more weirdness to come, but stay tuned for part 2 of the amazing live sea monkey stories. Where can we find you, Miss Phenomenal?
Everywhere at Roxy Striar.
Mr. Fantabulous?
Go to my Instagram. That's Jeffrey Crane Graham.
And you can always find me everywhere at Sean Whalen Actor, except on TikTok, it's at Sean Whalen 19. And I'll be doing my live QuaranCon on Friday, and it'll be great. Plus, I am, by the way, I did want to say this. We do have a email, actingclassweekly@gmail.com. I am taking new students. I do have to interview you, and I am telling you, I really prefer students who have had some training, at least 6 months training at this point, and then I can take you to a further. I'd like to work to coach people that have had some training and need to kind of bring it together versus starting from scratch. That's a little harder to do online. So you can find me, like I said, at Sean Whalen Actor or at Sean Whalen 19 on TikTok. And as always, thank you for letting me be part of your journey.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.